Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay. It's good to see all of you joining. Thank you for taking the time to join our webinar. We're going to give everyone another minute. But before we start, and while we're waiting for potentially someone else to join, there are a couple of questions about receiving the link later during the day. So everyone who signs up for one of our webinars receives a recording via email. So that's going to be sent out to everyone. Typically, our webinar takes about an hour. After about an hour, and after we are finished, the recording is processed. And once that is completed, the recordings are sent out to everyone who subscribed. So I think we can start, and everyone else is more than welcome to join as we go along, because we have quite a lot of things to cover today. Our topic, as you know, is common book review issues and how to avoid them. So also, my apologies. Before I start, feel free, if any questions, to leave them in chat, and then every 5 minutes or so, I'm going to take a look at the questions, and we are gonna be answering them as we go along. Your questions are more than welcome, and it's always a pleasure to be able to actually directly interact with our clients. So obviously, you know that the book review is the most common reason why books can be delayed or rejected. So every book, and this is something that we have touched base on a number of times previously during our webinars, every book that is submitted for distribution goes through a review process before it reaches the retailers and the libraries. The point is to ensure that all the books that are distributed meet specific standards, comply with retail requirements, and provide a good experience for our readers. So many review delays are caused by a small number of recurring issues that are quite similar. The good news is that most of them can be absolutely prevented. Today, we are going to talk about the most common reasons books are delayed or rejected, why these issues matter to the stores, how to avoid them, and then to best practices for faster approvals. So let us get right into that. Okay, so we have a question, will this be recorded? All the users who have subscribed are going to receive a link with the recording of the webinar. Streaming not working in the UK. So overall, we don't have any technical issues on our end. I would recommend, if you're testing your Wi-Fi and logging out and back in, that should resolve the issue. So let's just start by discussing the review process. Again, like I said, something that we have touched base on during our earlier webinars. So we have two layers of book review. Every book that is uploaded goes through an automatic review that is handled by a system, and a manual human review. So we are going to check for direct store links, freely available content, among other issues. We're going to be checking if the book is available in stores where you're trying to publish it, and processing should not take more than a few business days. That being said, there are some primary topics, areas of that are commonly causing the delay or the delays in a book review or the book rejection. So this is the metadata in general, content files, and rights and compliance. So retailers want accurate information that can help readers discover the books and make informed decisions. So, as I said, one of the first things is going to be the metadata, everything metadata related. So what is the point of the review process? We do receive some complaints, and I can understand the frustration from the back end. When it comes to readers, we need to make sure that the books that are available to the readers are functional and accurately represented in the stores or libraries where our users are finding them. For retailers, it's very important to be able to maintain trust in their catalogs, especially given the number of titles that are globally available now. And obviously, for authors and publishers, it makes a difference. It helps identifying the issue before the final customer complains, requests a refund, or there is a need for a takedown. So we are going to start with the metadata, because this is actually it's the easily, very, very, very easily print, but one of the most common review issues is the inconsistency between the metadata and the book assets. So metadata, and we had a separate webinar that was discussing that specifically, is one of your most powerful tools in publishing. What you want to be focusing on is making sure that it is high quality and consistent throughout. So before your readers are able to see your content, before they open a book, before they even see inside, they're going to see the title, the subtitle, author, description, categories, keywords. As I said, one of the most common review issues. So examples of what we are seeing and what these errors are is that, for example, title on the cover differs from the metadata inside. It differs between metadata and cover. Author name doesn't match across files. It needs to match completely. Description sometimes are for a different book, sometimes are slightly different. Metadata language differs from the book language. So these are the examples of what you might see. This is important because the stores rely on metadata to make sure that they show accurate information to the customers. Inconsistent metadata creates confusion. So, and that's something that everyone across the board is looking to avoid. So the best practice when it comes to this is to verify every metadata field with before submission, to compare titles, subtitles, authors, information across all files, to ensure spelling and capitalization are consistent, and to review your metadata after imported the book, because this is very important, and this is something that is easily missed, and then it can cause problems. So when I said that we're looking at inconsistencies between titles and subtitles. So usually they're not, like I said, they're not major errors. They are different spellings. There is subtitle that's entered into a titled field, or vice versa has happened. Promotional phrases that are used as subtitles. Incorrect capitalization happens. So that's why these are very, very simple things, and avoiding them or catching them during your own internal QA as an author or a publisher is going to save you time and definitely frustration. So when it comes to authors and contributors, again, this information is obviously essential for proper attribution and for making your book discoverable. A lot of people, myself included, search by the author name, illustrator name. So you know what you're looking for. You found something that you have liked in the past, and you want to find more. So common problems, common issues here include missing translator information, missing illustrator information, multiple authors that are entered in incorrectly, so multiple names into one field. So if you have multiple authors, you would add individual fields, author fields, for each of the authors. Incorrect in formatting, or just choosing the incorrect contributor rule, because there are many different rules given the number of different rules that can be used. So authors, translators, illustrators, editors, narrators should all be assigned appropriate roles. When adding contributors in the platform for each individual book, you can find and select from the drop-down menu the correct role. Also, when it comes to AI assisted or generated books, AI also needs to be declared. We have the entire section where we're going to be talking about AI and how that would be handled, where it would be added, etc. So we're still staying on the metadata, and we're going to continue with category selection. When it comes to category selection, it determines where your book appears in the stores, and both categories and keywords affect discoverability of your book. So we're going to start with the categories, and basically there are some common mistakes that happen. So when selecting categories, some users mix fiction and nonfiction category, and this is just an omission, clearly. Again, it's a moment of lack of attention that is going to cost you time and most likely frustration as well. Then incorrect audience category, overly broad categories, which is something I strongly advise against. We talked about metadata in one of the previous webinars, or use of categories that are unrelated to content. So if the problem with this, in addition to retailers not being satisfied about books being in less than correct categories, but when it comes to you as an author or a publisher, choosing inaccurate categories is going to affect your reach. It's going to confuse readers. It's going to give them incorrect idea about your work. And as a result, it's going to reduce your discoverability, because if someone is looking for a specific category and your work is missing, your audience is not going to see it. It's also going to affect your conversion rates, and you definitely don't want to select very, very broad categories. So you want to be specific and relevant. That plays into the book review, of course, but also into discoverability of your work. Moving on to the keywords. So keywords, again, there are some common mistakes when it comes to keywords. And when I say common mistakes, I'm referring to the mistakes that are going to be detected during the book review process and that are going to result in your book being returned for the update before it can pass the book review. Those types of mistakes include competitor author names. So this is a big no-no. Retailer names, sales claims, keywords in the wrong language, repetitive terms. Basically, the way you should be thinking about them, the way you should be selecting keywords is as reader search terms. For example, the good keywords are going to describe genre, themes, audience, subject matter. And the keywords that are going to be flagged as errors are going to be bestseller or Amazon top 100 or competitor author names or promotional language. So again, focus on them as helping readers find your book. So that is the point of that's the point of the keywords. So we are going to continue to, and we do have a lot. So we are going to continue to the descriptions. So when it comes to book descriptions, we do see some errors, not too many. So that's a good thing. But I just wanted to briefly touch base on this because descriptions are, when you're coming up with a description, you're trying to make a description that's going to do its work for both readers and retailers. So obviously readers are going to use it to decide whether to buy, whether this is something they might be interested in, and retailers are going to use it to understand what is being sold. Strong description increases conversions. That is a no-brainer. That's definitely well understood. So when it comes to, again, they are frequently corrected. You are going to be there. The most common error we probably see is the length. So there is a minimum length, but there can be some recommendations. If you're ever interested, you can consult with our team. But when it comes to the book review, what you want to avoid with descriptions is keyword stuffing. So trying to shove all of your keywords into a description, it's going to make it sound awkward. It's not going to appeal to your readers in a way you want it to appeal. You do want so it's a balancing act, really, because you do want your keywords to be present in the description, but you don't want them to sound like a marketing block. Also, you shouldn't be including your pricing information, the promotional language, as we have discussed, contact details. Obviously, formatting is always something that needs to be taken into consideration, and you want to make sure that your description is pertinent to the content you have. There is actually also a checklist that you can use for the purposes of recording. So there is a review checklist that you can refer to. So before you submit your book, when it comes to the description, take a look. Does it accurately reflect the content? Is it written in the same language as the book? Is it free from pricing information? Is it free from buy now language? Is it free from excessive keywords? Is it properly formatted? Is it unique to this specific title? And would the reader immediately understand what the book is about? What's an offer here? What are you selling? So that is very important when it comes to description. Obviously, as I said multiple times, there are things that you can always consult our support team on if you're unsure, if you want to double check, but there are some general rules. Now, this brings us to everyone's favorite. So the copyright and rights verification, and from there, I think we are going to AI and working and reporting AI use. So going back to rights related topic. So this is amongst the most serious review concerns, and this is something that we have received complaints on on number of occasions from our different clients. So typically, our team is not going to request documentation for every book that is uploaded. However, they may request documentation when content resembles existing work. Covers are very similar to existing books. Trademarked terms are used, or copyright complaints are received. Also, it's important to know that what commonly triggers book reviews is public domain, our content, fan fiction, unlicensed adaptations, collections of online content, fan fiction, and similar. So we are primarily facing, when discussing copyright, we are primarily talking about text and images. but there are others that fall under the same umbrella. So like maps, illustrations, translations, audio narration, etc. But I would say that primarily the copyright requests are triggered when it comes to by text or image. So essentially, as you know, a common misconception is that modifying existing material just creates new copyright. So that's why before publishing, you want to ensure that you can prove ownership or authorization. You don't have to be the author, but you have to have the rights for all the content that is included in this book. Why is that important? Because stores, distributors, readers, everyone expects that the book that is offered for sale is legally owned by the publisher who is submitting it. When questions arise about this, distributors may request documents. And this isn't just a legal formality. So it protects everyone in the ecosystem from the copyright infringement, fraud, misleading content, etc. And also, what it's worth noting is that in many cases, the book passes technical review, but is still delayed or rejected because ownership cannot be verified. There are some situations that trigger rights verification. So, for examples are like, for example, similar content. So, if a manuscript appears to be substantially similar to another published books, reviewers may ask for a proof of ownership. It's important to note that similarity alone does not mean infringement, and no one is saying it is. It's just going to prompt the distributors to verify the ownership. So, and this happens a lot, especially given the huge number of titles that are being released every day, because our ecosystem is growing. Also, what happens is that cover images frequently trigger copyright reviews. So sometimes they are AI generated images that resemble existing copyrighted artwork, or covers that are purchased from third parties without actually transferring the rights, stock images that are used without the license. So that these things are going to prompt the question of proof of copyright. Also, one that is not as discussed is trademark usage. Trademarks cannot be used freely, and these include brand names, product names, company logo, franchise names. Using a trademark in factual or descriptive context is often acceptable. It is problematic if it's used in a way that suggests endorsement or affiliation or authorization. So, again, a fine line. When in doubt, check. Also, one of the things that we see is derivative content. So, content that is based on an existing copyrighted work. And this is fan fiction, character spin offs, adaptations of films, retellings of novels. That is sometimes companion guides. We've seen those, or study guides that are based on copyrighted works. So if the new work substantially relies on protected characters or plot structures or dialogue or setting, it may still infringe copyright. So this is why distributors are cautious when reviewing books that are inspired by well-known franchises. Which brings us to public domain. I think there is a question. Let me just see that really quickly. What should the proof of ownership look like? Basically, what kind of documentation should we store while writing? There is a Help Center article that lists all of those. Let me see. I can just leave it in the chat for details because it lists the acceptable types of documentation. Moving on. Public domain content. Again, there are often misconceptions about it. So Obviously, this is content that is not owned by any individual or organization. And examples do include old books, historical documents, classical literature, some government publications, etc. So no one owns exclusive rights, so anyone can legally reproduce them. From publishing perspective, sounds really good. From a retailers, kind of creates challenges. So retailers are looking for unique, valuable content. And this is why many stores limit or straight out reject books that consist primarily of public domain materials. Pieces of work that commonly face review issues can be just plain reproduction of classic novels, collections of historical speeches, repackaged religious text, public domain quote collections, public domain reference materials. Simply reformatting public domain content rarely creates enough value to justify the distribution for the books to be accepted by the retailers. However, some public domain projects may still be acceptable if they contain sufficient original material. For example, if there is a scholarly commentary in addition to work, if there is historical analysis, if there is research notes, modern interpretation, critical essays. One book is just a reproduction of a classic novel. The other book is the same novel, but it is accompanied by 200 pages of historical analysis, annotations, maps, timelines, educational commentary. So the second book adds significant original value, and that one is going to be accepted. Also, it's important to note that freely available online content like forum discussions or wiki or public websites, so they cannot be used without the proper permissions, and reviewers may and do reject books that consist largely of the content that is collected from publicly available sources. And that brings us to everyone's, well, not necessarily always darling, but definitely a topic of conversation for sure. So assisted publishing primarily. So AI has definitely entered the arena, and it is definitely a relevant factor now. So we want to make sure that everyone is aware of this. So first, before we continue with this, I want to say that AI can assist with a huge variety of different tasks that are part of creating a book. So it can assist with brainstorming, editing, translating, illustration, narration, research, formatting. So when it is used responsibly and honestly, AI can improve your efficiency, and it can reduce production costs. So there is a definite big help that you can get from the AI, and it can easily make you more efficient and give you more time to get all of your ideas in front of your audience. However, AI does introduce new compliance requirements. So first thing that is useful to note is the distinction between AI assisted and AI generated. So AI assisted, it means that the author is the primary creator. AI, it can be used in this case in grammar suggestion or editing or translation assistance. So research, cover design. So human creator keeps the creative control, but outsources the drudgery to the AI. Basically, that's AI assisted content, and that is overall acceptable. When it comes to the AI generated content, this means that the AI system produces significant portions of the final work. So this is, in this case, AI may have generated entire chapters written the entire book, generated all the illustrations, maybe the entire audiobook narration is AI completed. So most of this is completely fine. It's just that most retailers do require disclosure when AI generated content plays a substantial role in the final product. So why does disclosure matter? So retailers do require transparency regarding this more and more. So the goal is not to discourage AI use. It's aimed to provide transparency. So to make sure that the retailer policy is respected, to prevent misleading product listings, to maintain reader trust, because we all want to know what we are reading, where we're getting this. So this is absolutely fine, but it needs to be reported. It needs to be listed appropriately when uploading your book. So the most common mistakes is not undisclosed narration or illustration. That happens quite a bit. So we actually have a question. So what about AI generated covers? Perfectly fine. You just need to list that the cover was AI generated. That's it. Like I said, most of these are not rejected by stores. They just need to be publicly communicated. So sometimes there are copyright issues in a sense. So when authors can sometimes assume that AI generated content is automatically free of copyright. So you can absolutely use AI generated content, but if we're talking about an final product that closely resembles existing work, or infringing on an existing trademark, or has potential for misleading attribution, that is not allowed. That is going to be called out. But the use of AI in itself, no, it's not going to be an issue. Sorry to bother you. Could you please send me the link later because I wasn't able to attend on time? No worries at all. Happens. So all the clients who have subscribed will receive the link to the recording later during the day, but before end of day for sure. So you will receive the recording, and you can listen to that, and you can also reach out with any questions you might have later on. So, and the question about covers brings us to the cover review standard, because this is obviously the first thing that readers and reviewers see. So it doesn't just attract attention, but it's nice it does, but it also communicates the features of your book. So what are the issues that we might encounter with covers? So what our team is going to be looking at is, does the cover represent the book properly? Is it relevant? Is the title visible? Is the author name present? Is the image, does the image have high quality? Does everything on the cover that we have already mentioned cover the metadata? So these are going to be topics that we are going to be reviewing. What we do see the most oftenly seen issues with the covers are missing author name, or different names on the cover versus inside the file. Poor image quality, misleading claims that we have already mentioned, like bestseller or award winner, pricing language that we have also mentioned in the past, or a wrong cover uploaded happens as well. So, and this is something that you want to be mindful of, because again, like I said, one minute of lack of focus can actually take several days to address. So it goes to the book review team reviews, sends it back, then you have to address it. So you want to be mindful of the time. Generally, when it comes to your cover, it's really not very demanding. So you want to make sure that title is visible, that author's name is visible, and the relevant artwork is there. So that means that we go to everyone's favorite, and that is EPUB review, or rather technical file problems that are commonly seen. So some of the commonly seen EPUB files are going to be missing table of contents, broken links, duplicate table of contents entries, empty chapters, navigation. So our reviewers are going to check that every table of content item works, that chapters open correctly, and that internal links function properly. This is of course applicable for the books across the board, but this is going to be especially important for nonfiction. Unfortunately, even the best you can have the best cover, you can have perfectly written description, but you still need to have a properly formatted EPUB. So essentially, why is this a challenge? Because most of the authors are working with PDFs, which are fine for print. We're focusing on ebooks here, and Word documents or other text processors, and not so much on with ebooks. Ebooks need to function properly across the devices. So different apps, different devices, different library platforms, apps that are in smartphones and tablets. So that is why the technical review is absolutely essential. The ultimate goal is that every reader, when they purchase a book, they get a professional reading experience. They get properly formatted book that works for them. So why this can be tricky? Because the file type, EPUB as a file type, means that the content is automatically going to adapt, which doesn't go for PDF, for example. It's automatically going to adapt to different screen sizes, to different font sizes, different applications. So this flexibility is its greatest strength. I'm a huge fan of ebooks, but it also creates opportunities for formatting errors. So something that looks fine in one reader may fail on another one. So one of the things that is one of the most common problems is the missing table of contents. This is something that absolutely needs to work correctly. Another one is broken internal links. So ebooks usually contain internal navigation links to footnotes, endnotes, chapter references, glossaries, whatever. It happens that there are links that are not included, that there are links that are not linking out to the proper section, that are pointing to deleted content, that are generating the error message. So obviously this is poor experience for the user. So again, each internal link needs to be tested before submission. Again, there are often instances of missing chapters or incomplete content. This usually happens when the wrong version is accidentally uploaded. It happens. Sometimes it's without images. Sometimes it's a draft version. Sometimes it's a partial manuscript. So it's actually surprisingly common that an author uploads an earlier export. When a reader finds that the book ends with the middle of a chapter that doesn't make logical sense, or that generally the book is not going to be approved until the content is complete. We will often actually see that there are placeholder contents. So this is something that immediately shows that the book is unfinished. So they are going to, reviewers are going to treat this content as a quality issue because we expect a complete product. That being said, when it comes to when you're having pre-sales, you will be allowed to upload an incomplete book as a placeholder if it's not supposed to be live immediately, but it's supposed to be live at one point in future, and you want to start the promotion. If you are looking to do that, you should contact our support team to make sure that they assist with that. So going back to the file issues, there can be issues with images, like blurry images, pixelated images, oversized files, incorrect placement, oversized in terms of there. Each of the files actually do have like a recommended size. So if you're not sure, or if your images are very large and you see that, you can always consult with us to confirm. Then you can, and we do encounter formatting and styling errors. So for example, that is one of them is a forced font. So the author may love a particular font, but when it comes to the ebook, readers often prefer controlling their own fonts and sizes. So most, if not all, ebook platforms allow readers to adjust their fonts or sizes or spacing. So forced formatting is going to interfere with these. So that is why it is rejected. Again, the headings need to follow a consistent structure. Also, there is some excessive manual formatting. This specifically applies to books that are being converted from Word. Sometimes always contain unnecessary formatting code. So they're like paragraph breaks, manual tabs, multiple spaces for alignment. So these happen, and these are going to affect the formatting. And if you clean the formatting of a Word document, docx, before you convert it to EPUB, it is going to produce more reliable results for sure. So I want to just emphasize that this is something that is, and by this I mean the issues with EPUB formatting. This is something that is of the utmost importance because this is being checked first. So if the file is not functional, it's not meeting specific requirements, it's going to be sent back. So yeah, so I would definitely, so before you're uploading your EPUB, there is a checklist that you can refer to. Most users are going to convert from docx to EPUB. There is a conversion tool on our site as well, in our platform, that you can use. There are recommendations regarding formatting, that you would remove the existing formatting before you convert your file. Check before you upload your EPUB is that your table of contents works as intended, so it functions correctly. You want to check if all the links work, if all the chapters are there, if the images are displaying correctly, if the formatting is consistent, if special characters display properly, if cover matches the uploaded cover, navigation works on multiple devices, there are no placeholders left, and that you are uploading the final version. So this is definitely what you want to focus on before you upload the file. Once again, if you convert your file, it doesn't work, there is something specific that is the problem, you can ask our team to review and tell you what you're doing wrong, because they can advise on this. I just wanted to recap the most common causes of review requests. So, and because a lot of them are very, very easily avoidable. So the metadata mismatches, I understand that, a small error can make a significant change, but you want to be mindful of that. That's something that is easily fixable. Missing contributors or incorrectly listed contributors, cover quality issues, incorrect categories, and incorrect keywords. So top 5 are mainly metadata. Then we are going again with 6 to the description problems. So though all of those can easily be addressed ahead of time, so you can avoid the issues with the review process. Then the rights verification concerns, public domain issues, they kind of go hand in hand. So I would definitely recommend, if this is something that you're considering, or your book might be similar to an existing work, you might want to look into getting a proof of copyright ahead of time, just in case. Even if you have like 10 books, or at least having rights verification for 1 or 2, so you can share it and then work on the others without experiencing a publishing delay. And then we go to EPUB navigation errors and missing or incomplete content. I would definitely go just paste that in ChatGPT, ask it what that actually means, because some of those errors are going to be obviously created by the system and they're not necessarily always human friendly. But AI is great for telling you exactly what you need to change in your file to make it viable. Okay, so let me see the questions. Okay, so I would also like to recommend very highly our help center, because there are a lot of useful articles there. So there is a questions, do you provide recommended cover file specification before we upload? So they can be found in the help center. I have just pasted the link to that article there. This one is pertaining to the ebook, but you can, when it comes to audiobooks, or when it comes to print, you can find all the details in the help center as well. If unsure, you can check with our team. If you're unable to find, or it's not listed, the information that you're looking for is not specifically listed, you can check with our team. We have covered all of them. I hope that the streaming was working okay for everyone who was online. Once again, everyone is going to receive a link to the recording. I hope that this was beneficial for you. Our next webinar is going to be the last Monday of June. I know we're going into the holiday season, but we are still going to have our monthly webinars. If specific topics or questions you would like to see addressed, let us know, because the point is for the users to get the information that you need and to be able to ask questions live. Let us know if there is a specific topic you would like to hear about. And I hope that all of you have a lovely rest of the day and enjoy your week. Bye.